بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Ask Eman, broadcasted live from the studio of Eman Channel on Sky 757. We're also live on our social media platforms, so please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook and Instagram page, follow our Twitter handle, and of course we're also live on our website emanchannel.tv. As it's a live interactive Q&A program, if you have any questions, then please feel free to pick up the phone and dial 0203 515 0757, and that's our studio number. Alternatively, you can drop us a text on WhatsApp, or to international viewers, you can call us directly using our WhatsApp number 079 1684 1483. And of course, if you have got any questions, if you would like to ask through social media platforms, that is Facebook page or YouTube channel, then please feel free to do so. I'm your host Qamarul Islam, and joining us tonight none other than Shaykh Adduha. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
First of all, thank you very much for giving us your valuable time, and of course, welcome to Ask Eman. Now let's start. This is a subject or the discussion you have very much keen interest on and you follow very closely. So recently I've seen on BBC, it was published on 26th of September 2021, and it's a survey, a new survey has found that young people in the UK are twice as likely as older people to pray regularly. Now, of course, it's talking about ethnic minority faith. Islam is also one of them. Now, one hand we are seeing here the ethnic minority faith, i.e. as Muslim, I can see, and the documentary or the news has clearly mentioned that young Muslims are praying regularly or practicing. On the other hand, we are also concerned people from the Muslim faith, Islamic faith, from Muslim household are sadly not a good number, but people are also leaving Islam. Now, this is a concern, and also at the same time, there's an element of light there that alhamdulillah young people are also investing their time in practicing their religion. How do we balance? Or how would you find this news?
Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa ala amma ba'd. Basically, the only way to really get to the bottom of what the trends are like in the Muslim community is to survey the Muslim community, because at the end of the day, if questions about worship are framed around Christian expectations of worship, then generally, Muslim youth are going to come across as extremely religious, because of the fact that the one thing that we can take for granted is right there in front of our eyes every week, is that every single Muslim, most Muslim youth, with very few exceptions, attend Jummah.
Yes, that's true.
That would count, at least from a survey perspective, if you asked, do they regularly worship? That would count as regular worship, right? So obviously, our concern at a basic level is that are they at least performing the 5 times prayer?
The basics.
The basics. For us, the bottom line is, are they performing the 5 times salah?
Not only once a week, Jum'ah salah.
Once a week, but are they performing the Friday prayer? Meaning, my point is that the metrics are very different for us. The evaluative benchmarks are very, very different for us. Okay. For us, somebody missing any of their fara'id is a major concern.
It is indeed.
Of course, in a worst case scenario, you take whatever light, whatever positives that you can find, but that's worst case scenario. Are we talking about a worst case scenario where nobody prays except for on Fridays? We're kind of in a similar crisis to what the Christian faith faces, which is not many people coming to church, even on the once a week basis. So we know our masajid are full on Fridays. Our concern is really about whether or not young people are praying 5 times a day. So I think those types of statistics are very, very difficult to find because we haven't surveyed the Muslim community. On the flip side, and I'm not trying to be negative, but I don't like false positivity either.
Okay.
Because I would rather that the Muslim community was aware and concerned about the lack of practice or the weakness of Iman in even a small segment of the young community, and was very much activated to do something about that, than it was complacent. right? Because they got a, they got some survey about how, young people are praying regularly. So on the flip side, my concern, which has really driven a lot of my work lately, is the fact that there are also statistics that show that quite a significant number of Muslims are leaving Islam.
Okay, is there a particular statistics or by the Muslim
Not
community?
in the UK. Not in the UK. In the UK, we have general statistics.
Okay.
But in America, Pew did a study that said that 23% of born Muslims no longer associated with Islam.
Okay, is it because atheism is in the rise?
So again, there isn't a blanket answer. If you were to frame it in those terms, then you should be more concerned about the UK because atheism is stronger in the UK.
But then again,
You
there is.
understand where I'm going from?
Yeah, I can understand that, but there's also
Christian society in America, it's well known and well established, is more conservatively Christian than Christian society in the UK, right? So that's a very specific statistic. Take it with a pinch of salt, take it how you like, but that's a major concern. There's reasons to be optimistic about how things are in the UK. We are infrastructurally stronger than our brothers and sisters across the pond. But there are also reasons to be concerned because atheism is stronger in the UK, and the main belief system that these people are going to, they're not leaving Islam for Christianity or another religion. The vast majority are leaving Islam for atheism, and atheism is much stronger in the UK.
But I have to also touch on the other aspect that I commonly hear, unfortunately, by Muslims. Some of them are highly educated Muslims, but sometimes there's been doubt in their mind, and they say, and I've heard it personally, that there are certain questions we don't find answers to. And when we ask, a scholar, they just ignore it, or it just blowed away completely without addressing.
So the vast majority of young people with doubts that I have dealt with, including young people who've left the deen, right? That I have dealt. Because I have an open door policy, right, with regards to people who have questions about their iman, doubts about Islam. I have an open door policy. Come, it's a safe space. We can talk about it. That's my policy, and I recommend,
without being judgmental.
Yeah, and I recommend that ulama and imams and generally the community at large, you'd rather know, right, than brush things under the carpet. That we have this open door policy, and we welcome people to basically talk about their doubts if they have them. Do you understand? I once, the first time I announced my open door policy was in a Friday khutbah. And I remember members of the community coming up to me saying, isn't that dangerous? Are you not encouraging people to entertain their doubts? Didn't the Prophet ﷺ praise people for having thoughts in their minds that were too big for them to voice, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said, that is clear iman. Daka sarihul iman. And my response to that, and that's often something on people's minds, isn't that the hadith saying that it should be suppressed? And the answer to that is, well, whatever the Sahaba felt was, they weren't doubts, and if they were, their iman was strong enough to suppress it. That is not the situation that we're finding ourselves in. The increasing evidence is that these are festering doubts that have resulted in young people entertaining kufr.
Okay.
Right? So therefore, it isn't good enough to say, suppress them, don't talk about them. Rather, we need to know about them, we need to talk about them, we need to address them. Either preemptively, well, in fact, I would say not either or, but both preemptively by taking preventative methods, but also interventionally by having services available for people who want to talk
freely
about their doubts. And if you don't like the word doubts, don't call them doubts, call them questions.
Okay.
Let's say people have big questions about Islam, about the Prophet ﷺ, moral questions, philosophical questions. People have these types of questions. What would you rather? That we have the confidence that Islam has the answers to these questions and we actually address them and actually talk to people? Or would you rather that we brush them under the carpet so that these questions or these questions were never answered so that their doubts festered, right? And they ended up eventually thinking, well, since nobody wants to answer my questions, perhaps Islam doesn't have the answers. So just to end on this note, I started saying this, that almost the majority of young people that I have dealt with, and I've dealt with quite a few, have come back with this one consistent piece of feedback, that the lack of answers in the Muslim community, the unwillingness to deal with these issues in the Muslim community has strengthened their doubts.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. And my dear viewers, if you have any questions along those lines, of course, we've got limited time, but inshallah, we'll try our level best to address. And if there is any question, then of course you can call in our studio number 0203-515-0757. Alternatively, you can call our WhatsApp number if you are international viewers, or drop us a text on WhatsApp 079-1684-1483. Inshallah, let's start with our social media, and we'll be going through our YouTube channel. And let's start with the first question. That is, my cousin asked me if I committed a sin and he told me to take an oath by Allah. I was pressured and I made the oath. Do I have to fast for 3 days? So the question is, cousin was trying to find out if one of their cousins have done or committed any particular sins. No mention of the sin. Now, that cousin...
They lied about it.
They lied about it, that's correct. Now, what should they do?
Yeah, they should keep the fast.
Any other kafara or anything else?
Repent. The fasts are the kafara.
So when you say...
Obviously, this brother or sister is asking the question because they already regret what they've done. So inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive them because they're already expressing the conditions of tawbah, which is they regret what they've done. They want to make up for it and expiate for it, and inshallah it will be expiated. But yes, they should. If that's what they have done.
Thank you very much. And also, my dear viewers, there is a new addition from tonight's episode. If you would like to ask any question, or if you ask any question on our social media platform, whether it be on Facebook page or YouTube channel, inshallah, we will try our level best to show them on screen. And those questions may also be randomly selected and displayed on your screen so that you can clearly see what the question are or were posed or asked. And inshallah, will be addressed live on air. And inshallah... And now you will see a generated question that will be coming now live on your screen. And our Shaykh, I will start with that question. And it is from Imad Hisham. And of course, you can watch, it's about beneficial. Okay, let me start with this one. Imad Hisham, can I watch beneficial videos while ignoring the background music? Now, this is a very common question. And it's always asked along the lines, if I go to gym and there are music's being played loud, can I go and eat in a restaurant where music's are played in the background? How would you address this? It's such a simple, straightforward question, but we still have concerns about it. What can we do?
Well, it's not a straightforward question because people find it very, very difficult to avoid these environments. If you ask me in the ideal scenario what people should do, I would say avoid all of it. But are people able to do that? What are they going to do now? Don't go to any shopping centers. Don't go to
gyms, restaurant.
Don't go to restaurants. Don't go to pretty much any public place where music is playing. Don't watch anything if it's got music in it. That basically means
documentaries have got background music.
That means you can't watch anything, including some Islamic channels, some Islamic content.
That's right.
So the answer basically to that question, really, I mean, depending on who you ask, you're going to get a different answer. If you ask a scholar who, and the vast majority would answer in this way, if you ask a scholar who considers music to be impermissible in all of its forms, they're going to tell you it's haram, and you have to avoid these haram scenarios unless you end up in a situation that is completely unavoidable, and a restaurant is avoidable, perhaps a shopping center isn't. Right? It would be based on that. What is avoidable, what isn't avoidable. If you ask a scholar who has a different view with regards to music, and some do have that, they would be relatively more lenient. Another way to look at this is to say you avoid them to the best of your ability, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be mindful of Him to the best of your ability as much as you can. Ittaqullaha mastata'tum. Which would imply that you avoid situations that are in your control that expose you to music, and situations that are outside of your control. You basically face those situations, remorseful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you are in that situation. So I suppose it depends on that. To address the specific question, beneficial content, again, it really depends on what that content is. What does beneficial mean?
Okay, let me then give an example.
Some people might find benefit in, I don't know, in a movie.
Okay, now in this context, for example, if it's a documentary, for example, documentary about nature, documentary about any electronics or mechanical subjects, then what can one do? Or on the other side, you also have mentioned some of the Islamic lectures or reminders have got some sort of background effect. So it's not necessarily music, but there is, or at the beginning or towards the end, there may be an element of music involved. Those many people would consider to be beneficial video where we can learn.
Generally, my understanding is that people who produce Islamic content with music in it are either making some sort of ta'wil that they're not using instruments, but they're using voice generated.
That's
sounds.
correct.
I can't remember what they call it. There's a word for it. Or I think that's what they do on Eman Channel, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
And or
a cappella, I think that's the word.
Cappella, or they consider music to be permissible, with certain conditions. And one of those views is that if it's background music without any problematic lyrics or anything like that associated with it, it's designed to set a scene, then it is permissible to watch. I personally, none of these views are popular in the sense that they're all minority opinions. So I would say people should be, as cautious as they can and only consume content that they feel they need. Like you've been told that you have to watch this documentary as part of your studies or something like that, and the rest is down to which opinion that you follow. I have some sympathy towards the view that if it is background music and things like that, given how pervasive music is, that there is some leeway and flexibility with that regard.
Thank you very much for that. Hope the answer is clear. Now let's move on to our next channel on YouTube channel, and you will be seeing the question also live on air on Eman Channel Sky 757. If someone reads Surah Mulk for grave protection, if they're ill and they can't read it, do they still get the protection of the grave? Is that clear to you, Shaykh? Now they're saying if they read Surah Al-Mulk for grave protection, I'm assuming from any kind of punishment.
Yeah, it's based on the virtue. Sorry, what was the
Surah Mulk?
And what was the rest of the question?
And they said if they're ill and can't read it. So, for example, they may read it regularly, and one part
answer is very simple. So, if you're reciting Surah Al-Mulk for the virtue of reciting Surah Al-Mulk, and you fall ill and you're unable to do it, then there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says that anybody who performs worship and then falls ill and is unable to perform those worships, they are rewarded as though they were performing them. They're rewarded according to their practice when they were healthy.
So let me give an example. Say, for example, someone who was praying 5 daily prayers with Jama'ah, and because of the ill health, they can't go to masjid now.
They would be rewarded for how they were what they were doing while they were in good health. So if you were performing if you were reciting Surah Al-Mulk every day and were unable to, for whatever reason, were unable to because of poor health, right? Even like lying in bed, you couldn't recite it from memory because you don't know it off by heart, but you were reciting it every day, then you will be rewarded as though you were reciting it.
Now, there was a link between Surah Mulk and grave protection.
I would say the same. With regards to the protection as well, inshallah, because at the end of the day, the protection comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, so there's among the virtues of Surah Al-Mulk is that it will intercede for the person, right? And I think there is also the benefit of being protected from the punishment of the grave.
Okay.
So it's based on that. But the question is, if you fall ill, are you going to get the reward? And the answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next question.
And that goes for any worship, by the way.
Any type of ibadah.
Any type of ibadah that you do when you're in a good, healthy state.
And you've been continuously doing it.
Yeah, if you become incapable of doing it because of poor health, then you will receive the reward as though you were performing it.
Thank you very much for that. Next question. If we sin publicly, is it forgivable? And is there any difference of opinion?
All sins are forgivable. What does that mean?
Publicly committing a sin.
If you publicly commit a sin, all sins are forgivable. Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha. All sins require tawbah, sincere tawbah. And all sins are forgivable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So let me understand, whether sin committed in private or publicly, you're saying all sins are forgivable.
The only difference is that some sins may require some sort of remedial work, meaning that if you've done some sort of public harm because of your sin, then you make your tawbah. But if possible, you should do your best to try to remedy the public harm that you have done. But if that harm does not transcend you, you just publicly have committed sins, then the harm of that is in the dunya. You understand?
Yeah.
So for example, in an Islamic state, a person who's publicly committed certain sins, their testimony may never be accepted in the future. So they may not be forgiven in certain contexts in the dunya, in the sense that in the dealings of man, in the dealings of people, they would have diminished as a result of publicly sinning. But and also it's a greater degree of sin, but that does not mean that your tawbah isn't accepted, and it doesn't mean you cannot be forgiven.
Thank you.
By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
It's clear. Thank you very much. And just a caveat there, when Shaykh mentioned about Islamic State, it's not what we know. It's about when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there, the way he nurtured a state.
No, in any legitimate, in any state run according to the Sharia.
That's
any
Quran
state run according to the Sharia.
I just wanted to clarify that, but thank you very much for that. Now, next question we'll take from YouTube, brother Zaid Arfan. Assalamu alaikum. If I have a training program for fitness and nutrition for both men and women, and I have a video call with all of them once a week as a group to discuss Q&A, is it unlawful because both genders are physically or virtually present at the same time on the video conference call?
No.
Okay.
I don't. Why would it be unlawful?
Because there is non-mahram? I think from that perspective, the viewer is asking the question.
The ruling is that with a non-mahram, you cannot be together in person.
Physically, you say what you're
physically
talking.
In seclusion.
Okay.
And you could also argue, you can extend that to a virtual space, and say that people should avoid seclusion, but but that is by definition that's not the same as being physically in seclusion, because the possible harms of being physically in seclusion and being virtually in seclusion are not the same. So we would still discourage that two non-mahrams, male and female, should be in seclusion in a virtual space, right? It will still be discouraged, but it's not the same as being physically in seclusion. In this situation, the context described, there's no seclusion. There's no khalwa, as the Sharia prohibits khalwa. Everything else, as to whether what they're doing is permissible or not permissible, really depends on the details of this environment, right? Are the sisters in hijab and things like that. But principally, I don't think there's a problem.
So even virtually, as men and women, we both the genders still have to observe the basic minimum of the Sharia.
I would discourage khalwa, yes. Obviously, the principle still applies, but the khalwa described in the hadith wouldn't apply, because that would never have anticipated a scenario of virtual khalwa.
Virtual, that's right.
Right? Because these two people are essentially talking.
That's right.
That's really it. They're talking. What they're seeing, whether that is halal or haram, depends on what they're wearing.
That's right.
But they are ultimately talking to one another, and that would not meet the khalwa that is haram according to the Sharia. But nevertheless, it still has dangers and is best avoided if there is no reason for it.
So basically here, if it's for educational purpose, especially now online classes we have on Zoom, I'm sure you have your online classes on Zoom as well. Some of the classes are taken with both.
So I still avoid khalwa, even virtually.
So virtually khalwa means one-on-one.
If I need to have so for example, I'm teaching a program now, it's a youth program.
Yeah.
the students are young and so on. There's male and female students in the class. We have the class together, but there's a one-to-one component to it.
Okay.
For that component, I have a female colleague.
Okay, so a third person is...
Yeah, a third person, but also as well as the possibility of just the female mentor mentoring the female student.
And male...
Just so that I can avoid...
Okay, I see.
A male teacher mentoring a female student.
So even here, you mentioned that in the hadith, it's about the physical seclusion, but virtually still maintaining that.
I'm practicing what I have just advised, that I still don't think it's a good idea for men and women to be in khalwa virtually.
Oh, that's nice. Jazakallah khair for clarifying that. My dear viewers, you're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel. As you have seen, we have displayed live questions on screen for you. And if you would like to ask any questions on either our Facebook page or YouTube channel, then of course, please do so. As you can see at this moment in time as I speak, you can see the live screen where questions are being showed to you. And these are the live feed from YouTube channel. And of course, we'll, if time allows, we'll also use the Facebook page. And if you've got any questions, especially something that is contemporary and Shaykh is very much highly involved in education in particular, then please feel free to do so. 0203 515 0757. Alternatively, our WhatsApp number 079 1684 1483. And of course, we'll be back in a few moments. Do stay tuned with us. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel. Thank you very much. Welcome back. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel. I'm in conversation with Shaykh Adduha. As if you have missed it in the first segment, alhamdulillah, now we are able to show you a live feed from our YouTube channel. And of course, questions that you put through to us, either through WhatsApp, Facebook page, or even our YouTube channel. Inshallah, we'll address them live on air. You can see the questions. At the same time, we'll be taking them live on air. As you can see, it's displayed on your screen. So if you'd like to call in directly into the studio, 0203 515 0757, our WhatsApp number 07916841483. And of course, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to all our social media platforms, including our Facebook page and of course our YouTube channel. Now, Shaykh, let's move on to the next question, and it will be a generated question, and inshallah you will be able to see that live on screen. And it is by Sister Maimuna. What can I do when my child's teeth fall out? Can I tell my child about the tooth fairy? Is it fairy tale something?
Why would you tell your child about the tooth fairy?
It's a question.
Fairy tale. No, I mean, look, I've been through this as a father, right? I mean, my approach to these kind of things is an approach of complete neutrality.
Okay.
There's nothing in my tradition that brings this stuff out, so I don't tell them about it, right? I'll say something if there's something relevant to the Islamic tradition. I'll tell them about that.
Okay.
Right. So if they went through pain, I would say, you know, I might say something to try to make them feel better about that. You know, I'll tell them something more factual. Why would I tell them about the tooth fairy?
So fictitious stories you'll definitely avoid.
Yeah, I mean, especially things
when there is no need specifically.
Yeah, I mean, there's no.
When there are better resources available through Islamic context, yeah.
I mean, there's no need for it. Like, why do I need to buy into Christmas?
Okay.
It's not part of my tradition. Why do I need to buy into? You understand my point?
Yes,
the point is that
I get
Muslims fall into this thing as though, like, cultural conformity doesn't mean that you have to buy into everything that exists in a particular culture. Yes, your children may ask you a question about it. Like, my child came up to me once and asked me if he could play a role in the nativity play. Of course, because they're being exposed to these things in school. They're reading books that might talk about tooth fairy and so on. So I just tell them, oh, this is just a bit of fun. Just a story.
Okay, so the same sister watching the show, Maimuna, she's asked a follow-up question. Then what do you do when a baby tooth falls out?
Nothing. You bury it.
Bury it, bin it, or?
Yeah.
Bury
is the right. Any human parts should be buried. That is the recommendation.
Okay, at a designated place, in a qabristan or in a back garden?
Anywhere.
Anyway. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Shaykh. Hope the sister is our regular viewer. Always ask questions regularly, especially through our social media platform. So thank you once again for asking important questions. All right. So let's move on to our next question. And let's move on to next question from brother Qasim Malik. And he's asked, based on the discussion we had in the first segment, Assalamu alaikum, what is the ruling on using the duff? And in which situation can we use this instrument?
You know, the whole music question is, it should be simple, but it's complicated because views of the ulama on it are really, really diverse. For example, about the duff, some of the ulama say it has to be it cannot be beaten according to any musical notes.
Okay.
Right? But yet we know that other ulama do not apply those kind of conditions. You beat the duff, you beat the duff.
So
As long as it's the duff, it's permissible.
So let's say a safe way. There is difference of opinion in this matter. And the best approach is, what would you say?
I mean, follow the advice of the ulama that you rely upon. Personally, I do not. I see no. The hadith speaks about. The hadith seems to allow the use of the duff in principle. There's no evidence of prohibiting any particular notes or anything like that. And in Muslim societies, people have used the duff throughout the ages to sing nasheeds and things like that. So I've seen no evidence to see why we have to stipulate the condition that the duff has to be beaten without any kind of conformity to musical notes.
Thank you very much for that. Again, a follow-up question, but I will take it. It's also a follow-up question from the discussion we have discussed in the first segment regarding khalwa and isolation, and it's regarding mahram, but we will find the question after we take this call. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on Eman Channel on Ask Eman, so please proceed. Are you there? Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Beautiful salam. What's your question?
My question is that I spend sometimes 45 minutes on the toilet, and I'm just asking, is this waswas from the shaitan, or should I go to the doctor?
Okay, my question to you, follow-up would be, without getting into too much detail, is it when you're doing wudu or other activities?
Pardon?
Is it when you're doing wudu, you're taking longer than usual? Or relieving yourself?
In both.
Oh, okay. It's clear. And do you have any medical condition?
No, I went to the doctor. They said it's normal.
Okay. Any supplementary question you'd like to find out from the viewer?
Well, the question you asked was extremely important, because the question of waswasa applies to the question of tahara, applies to it manifests itself when it comes to a person cleaning themselves, not when it comes to a person relieving themselves. So that means it will begin with istinja, right? So istinja is when you clean yourself after relieving yourself. So if you're spending, after you've relieved yourself, if it's taking you 45 minutes to clean yourself, or 45 minutes to clean yourself and then make wudu, then there definitely is a problem. So for example, some of the fuqaha have spoken about the need for men in particular, to wait until the final drop has come.
Okay.
The anticipation of that final drop, is it here, has it come, has it gone, causes waswasa in some people's minds.
Okay.
And as a result, they end up hanging around for ages. Some people walk around and etc. And that it can just urinating can take ages, right? So there's two or three things to consider here. Number one, know your body. You should know your own body, right? If you normally do not feel any kind of drop coming out after you've finished, after you've relieved yourself and you've finished, then you don't have a problem.
Okay.
Don't create a problem where a problem does not exist. If you often feel a little trickle or something like that, then wait. But a minute is fine. A minute, and ulama say that minute should be spent, either coughing or clearing your throat to apply a little bit of squeeze so that final drop comes out. Sometimes some people recommend that you get up and you basically you take a few steps, right? You hold a tissue and take a few steps. Cough. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then So I would say that do that for 30 seconds or a minute or for however amount of time you feel. Actually, I'm not going to say it like that for this brother. Not however amount of time, but you take those necessary steps. You know, you cough. I usually resort to coughing and squeezing my pelvic floor, right? Or my pelvic pelvic floor muscles. I think that's what they call them. If you have control, and squeezing them is actually squeezing them is actually good for you.
Yeah.
And then that takes 30 seconds to a minute, and that's it. I don't do anything else. And in fact, it's recommended beyond that, if you feel you might have waswasa, it's recommended to actually sprinkle water into your underwear so that it becomes impossible for you to confirm. And that's specifically so that you can avoid any waswasa. It's like, so what if you feel a little tickle, if you feel like a trickle has come out, if your underwear is wet, you can never confirm it.
That's right.
And this is recommended because the objective here isn't to ascertain the truth. You're not going to go and do a DNA test. The objective is for you to have gone through the necessary precautions. Once you've gone through the necessary precautions, you've done your duty, right? And, and it's only if you've arrived at some sort of certainty that you have a problem and you're trickling, should you be concerned. Otherwise, you just let it be. You just let it be, right? Because the shaitan will cause a little tickle here.
So for this particular brother, what would you...
So that's istinja. So some people... So I don't know because the brother hasn't specified.
Let's cover istinja, wudu, what about...
So this is one area in which people end up with waswasa.
Waswasa.
So I would say with both this and wudu, you focus on process, not outcome.
Just for the viewers who don't understand the meaning of waswasa.
Waswasa is when you start to doubt whether...
Whisper, some say? Do they hear whispers?
It's called a whisper. That doesn't mean you're hearing a whisper.
Okay.
The waswasa is basically when doubts are cast in your mind about whether or not you're clean.
Okay.
Whether or not your wudu has been sufficiently done. Whether or not every hair on your arm has been cleaned.
Whether I've clearly washed my elbow up to
whether
elbow
or not a drop has come out or not.
Okay.
So in all of these situations, the way you deal with it is you focus on a fixed process as opposed to trying to scientifically determine if every hair has been covered or scientifically determine whether the drop has come out or not come out. No, you just go through the process. So you finish urinating, right? Visibly, the final drop has gone. You hold a tissue. You cough a few times. Clear your throat a few times.
Understood.
Boom, finish. You followed the process. Clean yourself. You're done. Wudu, right? The Sunnah teaches us to wash every limb 3 times.
Yeah.
You pass your hand over as you would normally pass your hand over every single area of skin. You do the same with your arm, right? You follow the process. You do it 3 times. You follow the process. 3 times, that's it. There's no need to do more than 3 times unless you've got Tipex or something on your arm.
Yeah.
In a normal situation, there's no need to do that. So 3 times, rub over. You followed the process, end of story. You shut the case.
That's it. So you don't entertain the doubt.
Yeah. So 45 minutes is too long, I would
Okay. Say. And also just to clarify, obviously we don't give any medical advice on this show. Spiritual guidance are given by our qualified and respected ulama or shuyukh. And of course, for medical advice, do consult a qualified doctor. And if there is any issues with regards to mental health or even physical related health, then please do get in touch with a qualified doctor and seek necessary advice. Now, before we move on to the next questions on our socials, let's see who is next on our phone line. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Brother Adam from Macedonia, our regular viewer and of course our caller. What's your question?
My question is about what Jabir reported from Allah's Messenger saying that do not let your animals and children go out when the sun sets until the first part of the night is over. If the child is over the age of puberty, does he still count as a child? Is he allowed to go when the sun sets?
You mean after Maghrib or before Maghrib?
I don't know what.
Okay, I understood. Okay, I understood. There's also a very cultural saying as well, don't let children or don't go out before Maghrib.
There is a hadith.
Yes, so he wanted to find out about the verification. Is that...
so there is a hadith. So what people should do is close their front doors at sunset, right?
Windows?
Time. No, windows are fine.
Okay,
right?
doors.
Close their front doors around Maghrib time and not let children go venture out at that time.
Maghrib time?
Yes, Maghrib time, as the sun sets.
Okay.
And for a little while after, right? For a little while after, and then it's fine. because the shayateen come out basically at this time.
What about covering of food?
Covering of food is to do with bedtime.
Okay.
When you go to bed, you should cover your food, even if it is to put a stick or a spoon over the bowl, or if you can't find anything else. So a cover, if not, then something, as symbolically, because the idea is that it's a form of protection from the influence of the shaitan over our food. So so that's a different issue. But there is the brother mentioned the hadith. There is a specific hadith with regards to that. So it's as sunset comes, you basically don't let children go out. You close your front door, and then sometime after, it's fine again.
And also the brother has also asked a question, and it's he basically asked if the child has hit the puberty, does the same rule apply?
Oh yes, of course, yes. No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't.
So it doesn't necessarily mean the legal age, but in this context,
it's children, in the sense that children don't have the means of protecting themselves. They don't know the adhkar themselves and so on. So parents should look out for them and protect them.
Okay, I think that is clear. You are a regular viewer. You always ask questions, not only on our YouTube, but of course you always phone in live. So thank you once again for asking such an important question.
And generally, people, when you go out with children anywhere, at any time, particularly at that time, but anywhere, at any time, you should recite your du'as.
Okay. An example of du'as?
Well, just Bismillah tawakkaltu ala Allah wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is protective. The hadith says, that kufita wa waqita, that
so they can
you
find
will be sufficed and you will be protected.
And these du'as they can find in Hisn al-Muslim, right? Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. And let's move on to our next YouTube question, and you will be hopefully able to see it on the screen as well. Assalamu alaikum by Mr. K. If I found an extra job at a gas station and they also sell pork, in here he mentioned pig's meat, hot dogs, is it haram to work there? So it's basically a gas station, but they also have a section of food they sell, but they sell food that is haram, that contains pork, etc. Can he work?
Yeah, so this obviously affects a lot of people. So
that's right.
So ulama have looked at this and have given the opinion. At least I'm aware of Hanafi ulama who have given fatwa on this, that provided that the vast majority of the income of the business is not from haram, it is permissible to work there. And even only with alcohol, one should try their best not to handle it, because of the fact that there's specific prohibitions in the hadith with regards to carrying alcohol. But with other substances, your only involvement may be in shelving or checking those products out when other people buy it. And given that you're not the owner of that business, it is permissible.
Okay, clear. Thank you very much. Obviously, he didn't mention about any alcohol, so obviously we're not going to go into that subject. But inshallah, if a question comes in later, then we will definitely deal with it. And because you mentioned about the Hanafi fiqh, there is a particular there's a viewer who's asked a specific question and wants to find out about Hanafi opinion. Assalamu alaikum. Please, if you could answer this question. If a cold flu remedy says extraction solvent is ethanol 30%, is that haram to consume? I've only read the ingredients after consuming that particular product. In terms of Hanafi madhab, brother wants to find out the opinion. So ethanol 30%.
Yeah. So
also some medication, so we have to be careful.
So generally, the ruling with regards to alcohol is, in the Hanafi madhab in particular, is that it is not food-based alcohol, fruit-based alcohol rather, meaning that it is a synthetic form of alcohol, then it is not haram, and it is not impure either. If it is fruit-based, then it is permissible for topical use, as well as in medications, as long as there is no intention of intoxication, right? So with regards to, I don't know what ethanol is, what this particular ethanol is made from.
Okay.
But inshallah, according to that, by the way, this is, other ulama oppose this view.
Okay.
So in the Hanafi madhab, and the reason for it is because in the Hanafi view, it is only alcohol produced from dates and alcohol produced from grapes that is considered khamar or wine. that is unconditionally and unequivocally impermissible, and only alcohol that is produced for the sake of consumption as an intoxicating drink,
Okay.
is haram. And alcohol is produced for other purposes, such as preservation, and things like that, which is the reason why it's in medication and things like
That's
that.
right.
It's a preservative. Then those things are.
And now we use hand wash
Those things are
and
permissible.
hand gels.
Unless a person, for example, took that particular medication deliberately to get intoxicated.
Okay.
Then it would be haram.
Clear. And again, once again, I have to clarify, for any medical advice, please do consult your doctor. And of course, if there are alternatives available, please do speak to your doctor. And if that's the only medication that can save your life.
So that's a good point. Jazakallah khair. Because there's a difference of opinion,
That's right.
we generally do advise that avoid it if you can and try to use if there is an alternative that is
available.
With regards to cough medication, sometimes, and I've had this experience.
Okay.
I had a 3-month cough once.
Okay.
And I used everything, right, that was available off the shelf.
Okay.
And only the one with the alcohol content was strong enough.
Okay.
Eventually. So after trying everything else,
so you've exhausted all the other means.
It was actually after a Hajj.
Okay,
I got
mashallah.
this persistent cough. And after 3 months, finally, I said to the pharmacist, look, I've tried all of these ones. And I said, oh, what about this one? And I looked and it had...
Specific.
Yeah, it had specific. And I'd avoided that up until that point.
But then obviously you have exhausted all the avenues, and then that was the only one that was there for you. And I assume that worked for you.
Yeah, it worked.
Excellent. So that's the moral of the story there. If that's the only medication, obviously speak to your doctor.
Allah.
That's it. All shifa is from Allah. However, do consult your doctor before taking any medication. Moving on swiftly to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on us. Thank you very much for calling in. Your question, please.
How's the proper way to make wudu?
What's the proper way to make wudu? Oh, okay.
Yes, there are different people to make wudu.
Okay, it's clear. How to make a proper way of wudu? According to the sister, there's different ways of making wudu. Is this something new to you?
Well, the basics of wudu are the same.
For example?
The basics of wudu are the same. So, like you wash your face, you wash your face all the way up to the roots of your hair, all the way around to your earlobes, your face, basically the whole circumference of your face. You wash your face, 3 times. You wash your arms. You wash your arms 3 times, including your elbows, both arms. You wipe your head once, the whole of your head once, and you wash your feet 3 times, including your ankles. These basics are pretty much agreed upon across all of the scholars, and if you did that, your wudu would be done. Yes, there's some difference of opinion. Now here, we'd have to include all of the sunan of wudu, and according to, for example, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, and Imam Ahmad, you have to make intention. According to some of the Imams, you also have to say Bismillah before you start wudu. According to Imam Malik, you also have to rub each limb when you wash. So when it comes to these particular issues, ulama say one should be cautious and make sure they fulfill these as well to stay out of the difference of opinion.
Excellent.
Beyond that, there aren't any fundamental differences. If you pick up any wudu book and you do wudu according to all of the sunan of wudu, the sunnah of wudu, you'll cover everything.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Next question we'll take from YouTube. Miss Rhoda Smith. Can a good Muslim husband get married through WhatsApp to a woman he loves, though they are in different countries and financial and pandemic situations keep them apart? Through WhatsApp. So I'm assuming through telephone, so online calls, because they're in certain culture, they get married over the phone, or in these days, video calls.
The condition of marriage, obviously it's not ideal, but they're in 2 different countries. The condition of a marriage is mahar, 2 witnesses, and of course the proposal and the acceptance. The
ijab and qabul.
The proposal and the acceptance, right? If those things are fulfilled over a phone call and witnesses have witnessed it, and it's certain that the 2 people getting married are indeed those 2 people, right? And sometimes I recommend that there's witnesses on both sides.
Okay.
Then the marriage is valid.
Virtually as well.
It's the same thing. The key is that
those fundamental principles, if they are fulfilled.
Fundamental principles have to be fulfilled.
Okay,
There
excellent.
have to be two witnesses who witness the aqd, meaning who witness the exchange of vows.
Fair enough. Hopefully that is clear. And of course, when it comes to
If
the
you're all on
issue
the
of
same
marriage,
phone call,
yeah,
and the witnesses know that it's the two people that are getting married,
Yeah.
not some fraudster,
okay,
then khalas. In
excellent.
the same majlis, the marriage is done.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Next question, Sheikh. Do you deal with cryptocurrency?
No,
Okay. Would you prefer giving opinion about cryptocurrency?
no.
Excellent. So now we know that, inshallah. Sheikh
Don't
has
ask
given.
me about cryptocurrency. It does my head in.
Fair enough. No problem. That's why I thought let me ask you.
It's a difficult issue. Look, the simple issue about cryptocurrency is take the opinion of a scholar who understands it properly.
Let me
The
get that.
nature of currency is that it's always controversial at the beginning,
Okay.
because of the fact that one of the things in Islamic economics that is always taken into account is convention. If people conventionally start to deal in something as currency, it becomes acceptable, right? And crypto is kind of in that limbo space at the moment. Is it acceptable? Is it not acceptable? Is it going to survive? Is it not going to survive? It's a difficult issue. So ask a scholar who specializes in Islamic finance or
So basically, you're saying ask a scholar who is knowledgeable on Islamic finance, at the same time Shari'i aspects of it as well. Yeah? Hope the brother Hussein, it's clear to you. Now, before I end, I've got very limited time, literally less than 2 minutes. There's a sister who's asking a question. When you mentioned about khalwa, seclusion, and if it's a mahram is present, how old should the mahram be?
I mean, a baligh mahram is sufficient.
Past the puberty.
As long as they know that if the person would suffice, as a witness to what's going on, right? Then that's fine. So I would say at least baligh, like 12 years old is sufficient, because most young people are kind of reaching, maturity around that age, and by that I mean they're able to discern what's happening.
Okay, so just because someone is baligh doesn't necessarily mean
If
it's
you take a baby, then it doesn't count.
Yeah, okay.
Because the baby can't witness anything, can't testify to.
That's correct. So apart from baligh, also must have this sense and bit of understanding.
They should be able to discern what's going on.
Excellent. That's all we have time for today. Inshallah, next time, hopefully, we'll see you again soon. Jazakallah khair for your time once again, Sheikh. And to our viewers, I sincerely apologize. We've asked so many questions on YouTube and WhatsApp. Unfortunately, we couldn't answer all the questions, but what we're going to do is, inshallah, we will be back again on Friday and Saturday. And of course, tomorrow is Ask Eman Urdu. And my production team, inshallah, will keep a note of all good questions. And hopefully, we will try our level best to answer those questions. Next, we are back live on Ask Eman on Friday. Inshallah, if there are any changes, please do check your EPG. And that's all, inshallah, for today. Until next time, subhanakallahumma wa hamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.